For as long as humans have looked up at the night sky, we've wondered, are we alone? With hundreds of billions of stars in our galaxy and countless worlds beyond our own, it seems entirely possible that somewhere, out there, life has taken hold. But that's only the beginning of the question. Because what if intelligent life isn't just out there? What if some of the strange experiences people have reported for generations, like unexplained objects in the sky or encounters with unusual beings, telepathic communication, even experiences that seem almost spiritual? What if those experiences are telling us something we don't yet understand? Are we talking about visitors from another planet? Something interdimensional? Something connected to consciousness itself? Or are we simply giving an extraterrestrial explanation to experiences that have another cause entirely? Today, we're asking one of humanity's biggest questions. Are we alone? And as always, we're asking the question, are you psychic too? Hey, star people! Welcome back to another episode of Are You Psychic Too, where we explore spirituality, intuition, consciousness, and all things wonderfully woo. My name is Cliff, but I could not do this alone. Jenni, Kelsey, what is going on today?
Hey, guys. Doing well.
Hi.
All right.
Sorry.
All right. Today we're venturing into territory that might be a little farther out than usual. Literally, we're talking about aliens or extraterrestrials or interdimensional beings or whatever they might actually be, assuming, of course, that there's anything there at all. And rather than trying to prove or disprove anything today, I thought we'd approach this the same way we approach most things on this show. We're going to stay curious, we're going to ask questions, and see where the conversation takes us. So let's start with the biggest question. Are we really the only intelligent life in the universe? Our own Milky Way contains hundreds of billions of stars, and we've now discovered thousands of planets orbiting other stars. And that's just our galaxy. There are enormous numbers of other galaxies spread across the observable universe. So even without getting into UFOs, alien encounters, or government secrets, there's a pretty fascinating question sitting right in front of us. Did life happen only once? Here? Or is life something the universe does whenever the right conditions come together? And if life exists elsewhere, how often does it eventually become intelligent? Well, we simply don't know. But considering how enormous the universe is, it would be an awful waste of space if it didn't have life out there. So guys, do you think intelligent life probably exists somewhere else in the universe? Or do you think that Earth might actually be the only place?
When you consider the sheer scale of the universe, because our galaxy is only one galaxy among, they say, billions, trillions.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The idea that consciousness or intelligent life happening only once and here feels like a crazy claim. We tend to define intelligence in very human terms. So we look for technology or language, civilization, things that resemble us. There may be forms of intelligence that don't organize themselves the same way we do.
Absolutely.
So, and from a spiritual perspective, because that's where I come from, I don't believe consciousness begins and ends with the physical human body. So for me, the question isn't simply, are there other biological creatures out there? It's much bigger. It's like how much consciousness exists that human beings simply don't have the perceptual equipment to recognize.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think to think that we're the only beings in this entire galaxy or in the universe, I think it would be insane to think that we are the only living beings available.
Yeah, kind of
That's
egotistical.
crazy.
Kind of egotistical.
A little arrogant.
Yeah. Kinda, but so yeah, I think there is different life out there.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. What would surprise you more? Discovering intelligent extraterrestrial life, or eventually discovering that we are completely alone?
Completely alone.
Yeah,
By far.
That's scary. Yeah, I think that would be kind of scary if we were completely alone.
If somehow we could get proof that in this enormous universe, that Earth was the only place where consciousness was aware or became aware of itself, that would be almost more mystical to me than discovering aliens in my backyard.
Yeah,
For real.
I think it would be like, if that happened, I would go buy a lottery ticket in New Jersey, because the odds of that happening are just about as equal to me winning that lotto.
Well, I think even if you think about aliens, it's kind of like it's a cool mystery. And I think if anything, it kind of keeps your hopes up. Like there must be something more out there, or there must be like other life and must be more intelligent than we are. And so to say like, that's all bullshit, you're kind of, for me, I would be like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah.
I think it's just odds wise. I mean, there's, with all the billions of planets out there, there's got to be another one that would support human, or not human, but intelligent life on some level. So, all right. So let's talk about what we are exactly talking about. So this is where things start getting a little bit more woo. So when someone says alien, most of us immediately picture a physical creature from another planet. Maybe it gets into a spacecraft, it travels across space, it comes to Earth, it steps out of the ship, it's got big eyes and looks weird. I mean, that's certainly one possibility. But it isn't the only idea people have proposed. Some people believe that what we call aliens could be interdimensional beings, intelligence that doesn't necessarily exist in physical reality the way that we do. Others have suggested that certain experiences described as alien encounters might actually be spiritual experiences. And then there's an even stranger possibility. Maybe consciousness itself plays some role in these encounters. If that's true, perhaps we've been lumping very different kinds of experiences together and simply calling all of them aliens. So, guys, when you picture aliens, do you think of physical beings from another planet, or do you think whatever people are encountering could be something even weirder?
I think it's interesting because the word alien itself just means something foreign or unfamiliar to us, because our brains understand unfamiliar things by relating them to things that we already have context for. So if we encountered intelligence completely outside of our understanding of our biology or space-time or even consciousness, would we be capable of even perceiving what that is? Like, where would we file that in our brain context of things that are already there? Because that makes us feel safe, right? Like we feel safe if we can identify what the other thing is that we're not understanding. So it's interesting because around the world, even our world, you could possibly show the same phenomena to different cultures. And some might say, oh, that's an angel. Some might say that's a light being, or some might say that's a consciousness, or that some might say that's an alien, right? Because it's what they have context for. There's a story that's probably more metaphor than it is like historical fact, but that says when the European ships came over to the Americas, some indigenous people couldn't initially comprehend what they were seeing because they had no existing context for something like a massive sailing ship.
Yeah, so they didn't see the ships. It was like they were invisible.
It's like they didn't see them. Yeah, because they didn't have anywhere to file that.
It kind of goes back to your belief system, you know? If you don't believe that something exists, maybe it doesn't for you.
It's like the perceptual memory. You know, you can't perceive something that you don't have any context for.
Well, I think I think my idea of aliens is kind of whatever Hollywood has sold me in the movies.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
Right.
So,
But are
so
you?
I'm thinking like of a completely real entity like you and I that's outside of us. And I don't think I really thought about it as being something like a spiritual guide, you know, or like something that I would be connecting telepathically or anything like that. But I don't know, it makes me wonder, like, do we have guides that are extraterrestrial?
Exactly.
Right.
Do we? Well, do you guys think that it's possible that something that we call an alien and something that we call a spiritual being could actually be just different interpretations of the same thing?
For me, absolutely. Because I think that anything that brings us into contact with something mysterious that puts us in a state of like awe and wonder can be a spiritual experience. And even in, I was raised with the Bible. So in biblical scripture, people describe these extraordinary experiences using the language and the worldview that they had at the time, because that's all they had. So they would say heavenly being or an angel or chariots of fire, which is an interesting one, or visions of God, because they didn't have the vocabulary for what a UFO, or alien being would be. That doesn't mean that those experiences were extraterrestrial, but it kind of opens up the question of like, could some of the ancient experiences we've interpreted as purely spiritual have been encounters with phenomena that they just didn't know how to describe?
Yeah.
But
I think when I do psychic readings, there's a lot of people who are interested in the extraterrestrial and who believe that they're part of different star families or different, all of this stuff.
What star seed are you?
Right.
And you guys know that I'm not like a alien fanatic or anything like that. So I have no idea. And what I do describe to them, though, when I see something that looks really foreign to me and I have no idea, I think I am perceiving like maybe it is an alien, that this is the first time I'm encountering it. I once saw this vision of this being, and it had like a pointy, it looked like it was wearing a pointy cap, and then at the top of it was its consciousness, and that's where the light was, And
wait, its consciousness was above its head?
Yeah.
Wow. What did the consciousness look like?
It was like a bright light, but that's where it communicated, was at the top of this pointy thing. Oh. And below it, I couldn't really tell what it was. I have no idea what this is.
It sounds like an antenna.
Maybe. I don't know. So that's usually like how my readings go. It's like, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I'm going to try to describe what I'm seeing.
Exactly. You got to, because it's going to be, I think staying open is the most important part about that. When you go to a reader that's
alien to you,
that comes in with a preconceived idea of what you want or what they think you want, it's not the same as somebody who just says, okay, I'm just going to tell you what I'm seeing and you make sense of it.
You know what? And when I tell them like, you make sense of this, I don't know, they always say like, oh, that does make sense to me. I know that is.
Exactly.
And that blows my mind.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about people who said that they've had contact. So this is where the subject gets a little bit complicated, because there are people all over the world who sincerely believe that they've encountered something that was not human. Some describe seeing unexplained objects or lights. Others report seeing beings of various descriptions. Some describe missing time or maybe strange physical sensations, vivid dreams, or experiences that seemed completely real to them. And some people claim that they didn't just see something, they actually communicated with it. Well, we obviously can't know exactly what happened in every one of these cases, just like none of the alien shows can. But some experiences undoubtedly have ordinary explanations, probably most of them. Others may involve dreams or sleep states, memory, perception, or psychological and belief factors. And some are just stories. But that still leaves an interesting question. What do we do with people who appear completely sincere when they tell us something happened to me?
Well, I am one of those people, so I'm going to comment. What's interesting is that culturally, something has shifted, because this used to be a subject where you would get immediately dismissed as like a kook or a conspiracy theorist if you talked about aliens. But there's more and more sightings and experiences happening. And to me, that just kind of proves that the veil is thinning, right? And I believe that once these congressional hearings started happening and the U.S. Navy pilots started being able to release their footage of UFOs or UAPs that they've encountered out there, and more people saw it, it's becoming more of a question that people wonder about. And so that's opening it up.
I think you hit a good point. When the actual Navy pilots, who is a Navy pilot,
Right.
you know, they're trustworthy. They're not
They get psychologically
kook.
tested.
Yeah. So when those guys start saying, you know, what is this thing this thing is going way faster than a regular plane can go. This thing is traveling against an upwind and doing all these. So then people are starting to pay more attention, as opposed to your neighbor who says, "Oh yeah, they come into my house every night." You know, it's a little bit more believable, and I think that's where things are changing. It's coming out more like that.
Gallup did a poll where just in 2019 about how many people believed in extraterrestrial or UFO phenomena, and it was 33%. And then by 2021, only 2 years later, it had risen to 41%. So that increase in that small time frame kind of shows you where it's going. And by 2024, more than 60% believed that the government was withholding information about.
Oh yeah, I think
alien
we could pretty much guarantee the government is not telling us everything. So I think that's a different podcast, though. Have either of you ever had an experience that made you seriously wonder whether you had encountered something that wasn't human?
Yes, I think so. A little while ago, I think this was probably last year, maybe around the same time, where I was practicing my trance channeling. And so trance channeling is a type of channeling where you become kind of like the vessel for a spirit or a being to enter your body and take over your vocal cords and speak through you. This isn't for beginners. This is kind of more advanced things that I'm still not even comfortable doing still till this day. And I kind of stopped practicing it. But I think that's when I had my encounters with extraterrestrials. And that, for being a big skeptic as I am, like you cannot explain the experiences that you have when you're in that kind of state, because it was like I was seeing energy, but they were also speaking. And the language is so fast that you can't even process what you're saying. You don't have time to process the message or the words that are coming out of your mouth. But I got to be in that same space with them to see how they're pulling information. And a lot of it is working through energy.
Yeah. And even though they were going super fast, you still got a lot of the message though, right? On a telepathic level.
It was, they spoke, and the way that I received the messages. So when I came out of trance, I was able to deliver I feel like it was more of like it was easier for me to interpret those messages because I was in the energy of it and how they were picking up those, like what they were trying to relay. So I thought it was really interesting. And, that, who knows? Like, who knows if that was extraterrestrials? I don't believe it was anything dark. They always felt so benevolent and loving. And so it was interesting.
Yeah. It sounds fascinating.
And alien to you.
It was very alien to me.
I have a crazy story that you guys have heard. So in 2017, I was on the big island of Hawaii, which is like my home, my spiritual home. and had rented a house that looked right over the ocean. And so at nighttime, it's black sky, black ocean, like nothing in the way. And interestingly, the night before, and I don't know why I said this prayer, but I said a prayer. I said, okay, God, if you're out there, I'm going to need to see some proof. That's exactly what I said. And I didn't tell anyone about this. And so the very next night, we're sitting on the deck and just looking at stars, and these, what I describe as disco balls, because I just don't have another way to describe it. I go back to the context thing. These different colored balls, green, yellow, red, blue, dancing in the sky and kind of rotating. And there was no explanation for this. And I just was in awe and started trying to film it or take pictures. And then all of a sudden, this big, bright white one came over close and just hovered feet in front of where I was. And I was so in awe and wonder that I was just crying. And of course, the first thing I think was angel, because that's the context I had. I have no idea what these beings were, but it was so beautiful. I yelled to my son, I'm like, go get your good camera, because he's a photographer. He took a picture of the big, bright white light one. And actually, the camera lens showed us this, cross-looking light thing that was multicolored. So it wasn't just white, because the camera caught all the colors. And I have those pictures. And I have to say that for me, it was tremendously spiritual. I didn't stop looking at the sky after that, because not only did I feel like, oh my gosh, my prayer was answered, but also it was such a magnificent feeling to interact with something that was so different and beautiful. And it changed the whole trajectory of my work. I mean, and my life. I just became more of a seeker than ever after that experience. So that's really what kind of started my journey really into
those experiences can change you. They can definitely change you.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about aliens and consciousness and psychic phenomena. So this is the part of the subject that gets interesting. Why do so many stories about alien encounters include things we would normally describe as psychic? People report telepathy. They describe receiving information without hearing words. Some describe suddenly knowing things. Others report visions, altered states of consciousness, or feeling as though communication happened directly inside their minds, which is what Kelsey was just talking about. And that's interesting because those descriptions sound remarkably similar to experiences people report in mediumship, intuition, channeling, and other forms of psychic communication. Now, maybe that's coincidence. Maybe it's simply how the human mind interprets an unusual experience. But if there actually are forms of intelligence far more advanced than we are, then maybe communication wouldn't look anything like a phone call or a radio transmission. Maybe consciousness itself could be part of the equation. So guys, why do you think telepathy and other psychic experiences appear so often in stories about alien contact?
Maybe they're all different doorways into the same great unknown, into the mystery. Jung talked about the idea of a collective consciousness, and other traditions have called it like the universal mind. It's the possibility that consciousness is interconnected on some level that we just don't fully understand. So telepathy, mediumship, intuition, channeling, and even alleged extraterrestrial contact may all be different phenomena, but perhaps they're accessing or occurring within this larger field of consciousness.
Exactly.
We tend to separate them into categories because that's how our human mind wants to organize things. But maybe the universe doesn't separate them the way that we do.
And Kelsey, wasn't that exactly how you were communicating with them?
In my mind, yes. And I think I'm still in that position of trying to categorize it like a physical being in front of me. Because I'm like, if I can't see and touch you, how do I know this is real? And I think that's where I put aliens. I still kind of put them in that category.
But you're a channel.
I know.
But those are spirits.
I know. I have no idea. And, you know, I'm learning. I'm still learning. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I think over time, I think my ideas can change. And right now I'm still taking in all this information because I have no idea. I don't have answers.
So then if consciousness can exist beyond the physical body, does an intelligent being necessarily need to be physical to travel here and communicate with us?
Yeah. Why would they need to?
Yeah. Well, if we're entertaining the possibility that consciousness can exist independently without a physical body, which 3 of us know that that's true because we channel, then we can also entertain the possibility that it might not be confined to a 3-dimensional being as we're more comfortable defining it as. But maybe an interdimensional consciousness or intelligence doesn't need to travel through space like we travel in a car from point A to point B. Distance in physical space may simply not apply in the same way. So while we tend to imagine that aliens cross enormous distances in spacecraft, that's just because that's how we understand movement through space. But maybe consciousness is the meeting place. That's kind of my belief.
And I think science is getting to it with all this, you know, is it a particle? Is it a wave? You know, and that things can affect each other from enormous distances apart from each other. When one changes, the other one instantly changes at the same time. So yeah, we're looking at space travel from the way we do it. Like, oh, we get in our car, we start the engine, we drive down to the store, we get our alien pop, and we come home. They may be looking at it completely differently, which would make sense that they can travel so far,
right?
You know, and not be an old man when they get here.
Not be so 3D.
Exactly. Right. We're looking at it in very 3D terms, I think, and I think they're playing 4D chess, and we're still playing 3D.
They're in the 5D. Okay, I know this is off topic, but I'm like, how many levels is there to the dimensions? Like 5D, 6D?
Depends on who you ask. I mean, some places say they go up to
12
or 13, or some say they go beyond that.
What does that even look like?
Who knows?
No one's had contact, from what I hear, no one's had contact or communication with anyone past the 8th or something like that.
I'm sure there's
just one source.
I'm sure there's a spiritual teacher out there somewhere who will tell you that, you know, for this amount of money, I'll show you all 25 dimensions that exist. You know, I don't know. All I know is that we live in 3D, and I would think that our alien visitors are in a somewhat different dimension.
My 3D self is kind of like, well, that would be nice if you just popped up.
Yeah, I mean,
just show up, please.
If you didn't have to get in a car to go somewhere, if you could just go, I'd like to be on the beach in Hawaii right now, and then just be there. Wouldn't that be nice?
But isn't that what astral travel is? Totally off topic. That's another episode.
That is another episode. All right, well, let's get back to topic. So let's look at, could we be misinterpreting this whole experience? Because there's another possibility that's definitely worth considering. What if some people really are experiencing something unusual, but they're wrong about what caused it? Imagine having an overwhelming experience where you sense a presence, you receive information, you see something unusual, or feel as though you've communicated with some other intelligence. So one person might say, I encountered an alien. And another person might say, I encountered a spirit. Someone else might call it a guide. Another person might interpret it as a vivid dream. Someone else might explain the whole thing away psychologically. The experience could be genuine, while our explanation of the experience is completely wrong. Human beings naturally try to make sense of things using the ideas and languages available to us, our belief system, what we understand. It's why those Native Americans couldn't see the boats from Spain. A true story. So perhaps the real question isn't always, did this person experience something? Maybe it's, what exactly did they experience? So guys, do you think people can have completely genuine, unexplained experiences, but somehow misunderstand what actually happened to them?
Absolutely. I think, I mean, this just reminds me of my childhood and seeing things happen, and I misunderstood what was actually happening to me. I thought it was just all in my head, you know?
Like, what? Give us an example. What do
I
you
think I told this story before about driving in the back of my dad's truck.
Oh, and Jesus?
And I saw baby Jesus. No, yeah, Jesus going to heaven. So, but who knows? Like, I often think about this I'm trying to see it from the perspective of like people that are really close to me and who doesn't believe in this.
Mhm.
How often do they have an experience and just said, I was nothing. And then here's Kelsey trying to convince them, like, oh no, that was probably your guide and stuff like that. But how does it affect them? You know?
I believe the same thing, Kels. It's more of, well, instead of dismissing it right away, their experience, because it hasn't happened to us personally, or writing it off or not listening or thinking they're crazy, maybe the more important question that we ask is, well, what did it mean for them? Not what it was, but what kind of impact did it have on their lives? Because that's really what they're taking away from it.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I tend to believe anything that has to do with otherworldly spiritual stuff because I've had really unusual experiences. So I get it. I'm not going to see the things that you see, and I can't explain why during a medium reading I talking to a grandmother and can see her, right? But the validation comes through, and then the healing happens. So that's kind of more of what I think is the important part. What does it mean for the person?
Or when you finally kind of woken up to that and then looking back to have it make so much more sense now. I think like that was gold for me, where I was like,
Right.
oh my God.
Right. If we're allowed to say, if we entertain the thing to say, you know, I don't know what happened, but something happened, then it's a lot more fun to you know, go explore the unknown.
So you guys have basically already answered my next question, which was, is it possible that we could interpret an unexplained experience based more on our beliefs than what actually happened? And I think we're all going to agree, yes, our beliefs are going to be okay.
Our belief systems form our reality, but I love that phrase, limited belief system, because then it says, okay, that's limited. You know, go beyond that. You know, explore beyond that, and it's fun and surprising. And that's, I think, what raises consciousness is being open to that.
Yeah.
You know,
I
but
just
it
did
does
a
feel
reading.
scary. It feels scary to dismantle your belief system.
Yeah. And I just did a reading yesterday with this one girl, and we just talked about that, limiting belief systems.
Mm-hmm.
Like how, okay, she has a problem of like being very logical and stuck in her head and trying to overthink and overanalyze every possible outcome. And I told her, I was like, well, that's the issue, is you're limiting the possibilities of what could happen to help you solve this issue.
Right.
Instead, let it go and ask Spirit to come in.
But psychologically, the ego wants coherence. It wants to feel safe, and it doesn't want to be dismissed. So we'll often like reinterpret or reject an experience before we allow it to fracture our personal framework for it. But that's why so many unexplained phenomena can be disruptive. It's almost like if you ask, what if I've believed something all of these years, and what if it's not true? And that's kind of terrifying for a lot of people.
Once again, it goes back to belief systems. It's like if you suddenly shatter your personal belief system, that messes you up.
Nobody wants to be humbled.
No.
That's why on the X-Files, Mulder and Fox have the poster that says, I want to believe.
Okay, so let's take a turn here. Let's imagine something extraordinary happens tomorrow. Not another blurry video, not another eyewitness report, not another government hearing where everybody walks away with more questions than answers. Actual confirmation. Scientists come out and they announce that intelligent extraterrestrial life exists. No debate. We are not alone. There's proof. Everybody believes it. Whatever kind of proof you want, you believe it. Everybody believes it. So what happens next? For science, I mean, it would obviously be one of the biggest discoveries in human history. But what about everybody else? Would it change religion? Would it change spirituality? Would it change how we think about consciousness? Would we suddenly see ourselves differently, not as the center of the story, but as a tiny part of something way bigger? Or maybe, after the initial shock wore off, we'd simply incorporate it into our understanding of the universe and just carry on. Because perhaps discovering another intelligent species wouldn't diminish humanity at all. Maybe it would simply expand our understanding of what life actually is. So, guys, if intelligent extraterrestrial life were discovered and confirmed absolutely tomorrow, what do you think would change most about the way that you live your lives or the way humanity lives their lives?
I think some people's worldview would be completely shattered. Some would be scared and feel threatened that we could be destroyed. I think some other people would feel completely validated if they have been believers all along. And some would be fascinated. And then some people might just shrug it off and go finish watching the game on TV.
That's
it
me.
takes all kinds.
That's Kelsey.
Yeah. I feel like life here, Earth School, is such a big school. To put something else into it right now, currently in my life, I don't think I could. I don't think I have the capacity to do that yet. So I might be that one to just shrug it off and go watch the game or go do something else and continue life until it starts to affect it. I don't know.
So then discovering intelligent life, it wouldn't necessarily even strengthen your spiritual beliefs?
Who knows? I don't know.
Would it challenge them?
I don't think so. But I just don't think I have, with all of the lessons that I'm going through right now, I don't think I have the capacity to fit anything else currently.
Fair enough.
Maybe it will. I don't know.
I found that it made me so much more interested in what is out there, that I found myself seeking it because it did something. It turned some light on or something where I was just mesmerized. So, and that, got me to where I am now.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm the same. I from the time I was a little kid, I was always wondering what is at the end of space? I'd be looking up into space when my friends are playing road hockey and going, what's at the end of space? So I find it fascinating. And I definitely don't think we're alone. I think that would be ridiculous and egotistical to think that. But for me, it would be like, well, bring it on. I guess I'm just very curious about that sort of stuff. So are we alone? We still don't know. Maybe life is everywhere. Maybe intelligent civilizations exist throughout the universe. Maybe some of them have already found us. Maybe some of the experiences we've labeled as extraterrestrial are actually pointing towards something entirely different. What I think is fascinating, though, is that the deeper you go into this subject, the harder it becomes to separate questions about outer space from questions about consciousness. Because eventually, we aren't just asking what's out there. We're also asking, what exactly is reality and how much of it are we capable of perceiving? And those are questions humanity has been wrestling with for a very long time. So guys, after talking about all of this, has your idea on what an alien might actually be changed at all? Kelsey?
Maybe. I'm still waiting for the little green guy to show up.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough.
I think for me, it's it was all miraculous. It's like a miracle. And so it didn't destroy my concept of God. It expanded my whole perception of what that could include, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. All right. Well, now, folks, we'd love to hear from you. Do you believe that we're alone in the universe? Do you think extraterrestrials could have already visited Earth? Have you ever experienced something that made you wonder whether you had contact with something or someone that you couldn't explain? Or do you think that there's probably a much more ordinary explanation for most of these stories? Please let us know. You can get a hold of us through the links in the show notes. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded. We'll see you all next week with a new episode. My name's Cliff.
I'm Jenny. Keep your eyes on the sky.
And I'm Kelsey. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on TikTok.
Yes, we're on TikTok now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.